All right.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Evagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. So, I don't know about you all. Well, Sarah and I seem to both have independent, chaotic explosions in our worlds going on right now.
Quite a weekend.
Quite a weekend. And it was funny because we were sort of like, after we had this conversation Friday, we said, well, let's just see what this uncovers this weekend. And it's like, really? Did I have to open my big fat mouth and say that?
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's been, I can't even say it's been productive yet.
I can, even though I hate to, the ego hates to, and wants to say, F you and scream and pull my hair out kind of thing. But so what we want to talk about is, what's coming up more and more, and it's getting more prominent for everyone. It's not just us. I mean, this is the thing is like, we should have known it was coming when we came up with this on Friday, right? Because it has been a constant discussion. I have so many who come to me like in sessions, as friends, as whatever, just in casual conversation where there's all this chaos going on, like chaos. And if you step out of it and it's like, people say, well, what the heck is this chaos about? It's like, if you look at it from a collective level, what have we been talking about? All the shit bubbling up to the surface to be resolved. Right. So how is that going to, if you think, I always think about like what you have talked about, the water right before it boils. And then, it starts to get really agitated before it changes to gas, right? That steam. And it's like, we have a collective agitation going on. So it is a collective thing as much as it is for every individual molecule in that.
Right. And I mean, you even think about the way the messages we've sent to ourselves, because we just had the equinox where we had the balance, the equality of the dark and light. And now we're headed to
the darkness,
more dark.
Yeah.
And
which of course we're preparing for our shadow course in October launch for the October. Yes.
Exactly. And we're taking a look at, we're re-examining everything. Mm-hmm. Everything. And, like you and I talked about, we always talk about the people in your reality are just a mirror back to you of what's going on within. And it's like that mirror is getting, like I said earlier, razor sharp. And
razor is a good word for it.
It is. And it is. And you experience it that way, whether you understand it that way or not.
Right.
And that creates that intensity of the interactions and the just sitting with it. And because there's no pushing through it, because it's almost harder to push through it, which is unusual.
Yeah. Yep. And it's no holds barred anymore. Right. So there's nothing. This is actually what came up here is just every freaking thing left in the cracks and crevices that I have not wanted to look at.
Right.
You know what? I just realized, I wonder, did I actually put this on Ascended World?
Oh, yeah, that's where I found it. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. Because I was thinking, oh my God, because we were just sort of in a flurry to get on. Yeah, mine just
that's where I found it.
But anyway, it is, this is round whatever, but it seems like a very heavy round to stuff I've been through 3 months ago. And it was like for both my husband and I, and it's both. It is jarring, and it is, I'll be honest about it. I had a meltdown this weekend beyond meltdowns. I have not had a meltdown like that. I have never had a meltdown like that.
I've never had a meltdown like I had either. Never.
Which was so weird because when I texted you yesterday and I was like, oh my God, like this freaking crazy, like blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah. It sort of sucked.
Me too. It's a new
too.
Me Too movement.
And then I know, and then you're telling me this, and I'm going, that's weird. Cause I mean, I had the same kind of meltdown, and it was
Yep.
just as explosive, and it was just as revealing and crazy. But, and it's not bad. Here's the thing. The ego wants to judge it as bad, right?
Right.
It's
And
painful and uncomfortable. And it's funny because it's almost like, because I went through a heavy dose of this 3 months ago,
right.
there's a part of me going, no, just let it fly. Just let it fly. You know, you'll
Right.
feel better on the other side. Right.
Right. I did the same thing. I did exactly the same thing. It's like better out than in.
Yes. Cause I'm done holding it in. And that's what it was. I am done taking it. I am done accepting. I am done
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And that's what that's really what I got to, is like, you know what? I'm done being conscious about it, like being mature about it. I want to have a temper tantrum, and
Right.
I'm going to have one right now. Right. And
Well,
so
and
go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
No.
When I came back in this morning and got back on all my screens and everything, I had the workbook up for our shadow course that I've been tweaking, and what was up was anger, and it was like, how did this anger serve you? And it was like blaring in my face this morning, because when I take a look at it, and when I take a look at what I experienced, there was so many ways that it served me, but I so wanted to sit and judge it.
Yeah, me too.
I so wanted to sit there and beat myself up for allowing myself to experience that level of anger, and allowing myself to let go, and allowing myself to be just submersed in it.
Yes. And me too. And I have not allowed that to that level ever. Like it went primal. Like I went primal, and in a way that wasn't, it was self-present. Now, granted, my
Right.
husband was the brunt of some of it, but it was cathartic in a way.
It was.
It forced me to, anyway, so we'll get back to that. Let's get back to that, because we got to get back to, like, so here's the topic, right? The topic about all of this stuff, right? So these are good examples of, like, these are two people who are committed, you and I, to consciousness in our lives and whatever. And I had the biggest explosion in my life this weekend, right? Probably.
Right.
Well, since I was a teenager anyway, since I was
I don't even think mine as a teenager were like this.
So, and it was important. It was very important, because it has forced to the surface questions I've never wanted to ask myself, things I never wanted to look at, conversations I never wanted to have because it was uncomfortable. And it has been very productive. But here's the thing. I can see that. I can see it from a conscious perspective, as much as I'm allowing the ego to just saturate itself in that, right?
Right.
There are billions of people on this planet, and many of them are not there yet in that conscious way, right?
Right.
So the chaos that's going on in their lives, as this is coming up and gurgling to the surface, because it is gurgling to the surface, whether we want it to, or whether we want it to, quote unquote, right? Whether the ego is comfortable with it or not. And it feels like, so here's the thing, the more we resist this stuff, the more of an impact it has as it bursts into the surface to change over to gas, right? That transformational moment is an explosion, right?
Right. And it's funny, which you don't even think about this, back to the changing states and the water and going to, it also gets agitated before it freezes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's almost like there's two different reactions that can happen. Mm-hmm. You can either become solid and stuck, or you can release it. And that's such an awesome metaphor for what we're talking about in this navigation through this agitation.
Right. Because go ahead.
You layer on, ragweed season and all the pollens and allergens and everything, which are just
Yes.
They're just like a systemic agitation and irritation, which just fuels it all.
With more people having allergies than ever before.
Right.
And they don't make that we don't make that connection, right? Going, the reason I have the allergies is because there is agitation coming to the surface for me on a constant basis, right? That the only way I'm allowing it to manifest is through physical reaction.
Right.
Right. So here's the point on this. So think about that. We have 7.8 billion people on this planet. We have 7.8 billion molecules agitating.
Scary.
It is scary.
Well, and imagine the tsunamis created from that agitation. You think about the earth and it's shifting and creating those massive waves. Right. That's what this is.
And we have many who are doing this conscious work, and they're like, oh, and it's still this dedication to the light and this ignorance of the dark, right? And saying, oh, no, that's okay. And it's funny, I've seen the most calm, loving, conscious people have meltdowns and breakdowns and physical illness.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Because we deny it coming to the surface consciously, it will find its way up in that agitation, whether it is through illness. It's funny, we have a pandemic, right?
Right.
Or agitation in another way, or anger. Good morning, Anne. Or anger to, project to somebody else. And so if you think about 7.8 billion molecules agitating, getting ready to change form,
bumping into each other,
we get, the more agitated it gets, right?
Right.
So the question is, and this is what we were talking to on Friday, is how do we insulate our intended manifestations, our intended creations? Because here's the thing, first of all, we have our own agitations coming up, right? And it could be great today. And, and whoever could be watching this now or recording could be saying, oh, well, no, everything's great. Everything's fine.
Right.
It could come up tomorrow and it'll hit you out of nowhere. Right. Believe me, I know it hit me out of nowhere Saturday, just saying, after I actually was having a fabulous day. And then
until you weren't.
Until I wasn't. So, so the thing is, and that's part of us being present, right? And not sitting with expectation, because, the funny thing is, I did, before I texted you yesterday, think, oh, I wonder what Sarah's weekend's been like.
I know.
And when you came back and pretty much had the same kind of weekend, I was like, dang, that is so bizarre, because we are just two molecules in the same part of the water that's agitating together, right?
Right.
But, so the key is, number one, the best way to navigate is to focus on our own agitation, to resolve it, to complete it, because the agitation is friction, right? It's friction that we hold within us of, again, things we don't want to look at, things we don't want to change because the ego finds them comfortable or judges them as good or whatever.
Right. And what if we change that friction to propulsion catalyst?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Much better.
Because that's really what it is.
Right. Well, because it forces it up. And so it's as uncomfortable or as comfortable as we choose for it to be. Right.
Right.
Now, this was pretty uncomfortable for me, I would say. But
I would have to agree.
But I gave myself the space,
right,
to let it fly, right? And there was
and after that release, I gave myself the space to experience it.
Yes.
I didn't try to rush it.
Yep.
I didn't try to explain it away. I didn't try to rationalize or apologize. I really just sat with it, almost like it was another person that I was holding space for.
Yeah. And watched myself, right? And so, you know, the thing is, we could have chosen, this is to talk about, so everyone is aware that we all are going through it, whether we're talking about it in public or not, because we almost chose to not get on the air and talk about this today.
Right.
Up to 20 minutes before we got on the air.
It could have been easy to say, oh no, we have technical problems.
Technical difficulties. But you know, and we were texting, and you could tell both of us were trying to get to the point of like, yeah, let's just not do it. And then it was like both of us had the voice going, yeah, you need to get on and talk about this. Right. And the thing is, because the reason for us to do this podcast, this live stream, this discussion is the authenticity of it, is to be authentic. And this is our journey in living an ascended life. This is our journey in remembering how to be that way. And part of it is allowing ourselves to be the humans that we have manifested into creation as this part of our consciousness, right? And in coming to that remembrance is allowing, and it's looking at all of the uncomfortable things, right? We convince ourselves when we work in the light that we have no darkness anymore, right? And we beam and bask at people who say, oh, you're so much light, you bring so much light to the world. And I'm just like, when people say that now, what I think is, oh, and I also bring a lot of darkness to the world, because if I'm bringing that much light, my balance in yin yang is that darkness, right? And the duality.
Right. And so, it comes back down to that unconditionalness.
Mm-hmm. And there is darkness in the light together, right? They're together.
Can't have one without the other.
Yep. And what we've created in, you know, as we've talked about the propulsion thing, and like you're saying, I love that, you know, change it to that catalyst for propulsion instead of the agitation, but many are experiencing it as agitation. Right. And what's important to also talk about is they don't understand that the agitation is coming from inside of them. And they don't understand that, like, the sickness or the injury or the relationship issues or the job issues or the home issues or financial issues, they don't realize all of that is the agitation that's going on inside of them, because they're manifesting things to reflect back in the mirror, like you said, with razor sharp clarity, right? Yeah. And it is only going to get more and more. And this is not defeatist or negative in any way, but it's only going to get more and more in our faces until we look at it. Right. And
and then back to your point about getting on and talking about this right now, is it's more from a perspective of we're all in this together. This isn't us telling you what to do.
No. And it's not
I've already done this, and it's like we're all in this agitation together.
Yes.
We're all in this agitation together. And in being in it together, imagine as we all start to see it as that catalyst for propulsion.
Right.
How it can be different.
Well, it can be different. And that's the whole
and our experience of it.
Yes.
Our experience of it is different, not necessarily the chaos being different.
Right.
Which I think is really critical to understand, that, you know, in seeing it from that higher perspective and seeing it from what we're talking about, that it's not going to magically, you know, the roar doesn't just dull.
And we can't wish it away anymore.
Right.
I mean, we can, if we are willing to let go in a true sense, right? So yes, can I snap my fingers and change it? Yes. Do I consciously realize all of the things, all of the fingers, all of what I think is a root system to a tree, all of the roots that connect this particular thing that I'm snapping my fingers about, how much else it affects.
Right.
And that's what we're becoming more conscious of, is there's nothing that we experience in duality is singular in its presence, right? It is singular in its presence in our reality, because it's always connected in all of these directions to all of these other things, because we put all these reflections in our reality to assure that that we get the message, right? So this is where it has become more, you know, I have so many people I know who are actually going through a really good period, a lot of good changes in their lives. And here's the thing, it is almost more dangerous to have that, because then our ego says, oh, look, I'm happy here. I can discount this. I can put this in the closet. I don't have to look at this because overall things are good, you know?
Right.
And that's what I had to come to this weekend, because I said, you know what? I'm not happy with 90% anymore. 100% is it.
Right. Right.
It's 100%.
Yep.
And so,
And 100% light and dark. Do you see what I'm saying? Like coming and going,
oh yeah,
giving
absolutely.
and taking,
Yes, both ways.
sending, receiving,
Full
absolutely.
flow,
Full
100%.
flow. Exactly. Exactly.
And that's what I said, is like, I am done being 100% present and only getting 80% in return. Right.
Right.
Nope. Right.
Because
for me, and so here's the thing. And in saying that, I see the mirror of it saying that to myself. Right.
Right. Which is, I mean, I get chills because
yes,
that's what smacked me in the face this morning. It's like, okay, yeah. So it's really me talking to me.
Oh, of course.
And it feels like it now.
Yes.
The face of the other person isn't near
it's so
as clear.
close.
But the closer it gets, the more it becomes me.
Yes. And you lose the
illusion of not me.
Yeah. And so it's important to talk about this with everybody, as well as the chaos, because one is like this with the other. Okay.
Right.
So the more we all commit ourselves to allowing it to shift, right? To allowing ourselves to look at those cracks and crevices, to say, okay, I'm going to let it come. And sometimes we have it so suppressed that we have to have the explosion to push it to the surface.
Right.
Because
and
so
to
many
allow
say
that experience in its fullness.
Yeah.
Not just, well, I'll let this little bit out and I'll let this little bit out. No, it's
yeah.
It's
yeah. And
all or
so,
nothing.
yeah. And so like many go to this place of, oh no, things have been going well, or things have been going smooth. I haven't meditated as much because, I've been feeling good, which is like, the whole, I'm not taking my medicine because I feel better when I take it,
Right.
kind of thing. And so the expanded consciousness is like, okay, well then I'm going to push it on you in other ways. Right.
Right.
Until you see it, until you shut down, until you have your explosion. And I could feel it coming. I knew it was coming, and I denied it, and I denied it, and I denied it. And I'm like, and I know I was denying, and I knew I was freaking denying it because I could feel it. And I got nobody to blame but myself. Because
and I know for myself, even though I was like kidding myself that I was going along my merry path, I kept poking it.
Yeah.
I'm poking it.
Yeah.
I'm poking it. It's like poking the bear, and eventually the bear wakes up.
Right. Well, because the bear is actually there. It's not there. Right.
Right. Oh,
if it wasn't there, you'd be poking air. So it'd be nothing. Right.
Right. Right.
So when we can commit to that within ourselves and say that my primary purpose, my priority, my number one priority is poking that bear in me until it wakes up. That's my commitment to helping the transformation, to the change in state, right? That's what water to steam is, right? The changing in state from solid to gas, from solid to ice, right? Solid to frozen.
A liquid to solid.
Liquid to solid. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. You know what I meant. And so if we all think about that, if every molecule committed to, I'm going to let this come up as easily as possible, how fast that transformation would be done.
Right.
And they don't sit there and go, well, what's that molecule doing down the street? Wait, I don't know if you're doing that transformation well enough. Let me help you with that.
Right.
Or this is going on. I'm just going to ignore this, and I'm going to go pay attention to this one over here, to that one over there, to that one over there, to those 3,000 of them over there. That's more important than this.
Well, those over there aren't doing it, so why should I do it?
Right. Or
they're not doing it the same way I'm doing it.
Or those over there aren't doing that, so I have to help them. Forget it my own, because it's easier for me to help them because it's not me. Right. So it's that kind of stuff. And we do that with our spouses, We do that with the general public. We do that with the news, what we see in public, with our neighbors, like constant distractions. And it's like, it's funny because, you know, in the conversations I've had with my husband, it was, well, so how do we know that it can change, you know? And he's like, well, because there's nothing else anymore.
Right.
And unfortunately, we are getting ourselves there to that point. And however that looks, it's like there's nothing else but change.
Right.
And the ego has, that's what causes the meltdown. You know, I said so many expletives.
I know.
So many times.
Yeah.
And I threw things. I have never, ever in my life done something like that. I was throwing things. I was screaming. I was just letting myself have that temper tantrum, and it was good. It was great. I even laughed about it yesterday.
Right.
I was laughing to myself about it.
Yes.
But all the time I watched myself doing it.
Yes. It was very dissociative.
Yes. And at
And
one
I
point,
remember making choices and then not experiencing the play out of that choice, almost being more in observation of it, which I found really unique.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it was like, I let myself go. And then at some point there was a voice that said, that's enough.
Good enough. Done. Ding, ding, ding.
And that was when I went out for a walk. And I walked for a while to calm down, because you get lost in that energy. That energy is addictive. That explosive energy. So because it's such a release, the ego's like, oh, well, then let's just throw everything else up. You're like,
right,
just
right. Let me see what else I can dredge up to
Exactly.
throw on that fire.
But that's the conscious part. When you hear the voice that says, that's enough now.
Right.
To listen to that as much as then the ego's going, but now I'm having a good time.
Right. I that reminds me of an episode of, I don't know if you ever watched MASH, but it was like they were all really just fed up, and they had a wounded soldier come in with clothes that were infested with lice or whatever, and so they had to burn them. And they realized, oh, this is kind of fun. And then it's like, well, let's throw this on. And oh, well, while we've got let's throw this on. And they ended up like throwing, you know, everything in the fire. And, you know, the colonel was just so upset. And their psychologist was there, and he was like, no, you don't understand. This is better than the alternative.
Right.
You need to let them do this.
Right.
And you know, better out than in. And that's what this reminds me of. It's like the ego is wanting to hunt around for what else can I throw on that fire. Yeah. Right.
But when the voice says that's enough,
right,
the key is to listen, as hard as that feels, because that to me was harder than letting it come up. The stepping, because when the moment was when it said that was enough, it was like, but I want to continue because this feels really good.
yeah. The ego is fully in its full glory.
Yes, and it's full glory. Yes.
Yes.
So and there's not. So here's the thing. I find that a huge lesson, and what a great thing for us to be able to share, right? Because we are committed to that consciousness. And it's not to feel bad about ourselves. It's not to feel bad or get sympathy about any situation. We all have them. We all have the cracks and crevices. We all have the stuff we're not looking at. And now it's like, it's becoming more urgent to push it up, right? So things are becoming more explosive until they finally do. And the key is,
if everybody's complaining, whatever happened to customer service, COVID ruined this and COVID ruined that. Actually, it was already ruined. And what we're doing is, by experiencing all this stuff, it's allowing this friction to spread. And as we allow it to come up, and as we see it, and then we come out the other side, it's like, that's when we become, and I hate to use these terms, but it's what's coming to my mind right now, is we become that better person that we are.
Yeah. Well, that's in
And
there.
that,
We
right,
become,
and
we
it
allow
allows
ourselves.
that-
Yeah.
Yes.
We are
Yes. And we
ourselves to-
reconnect with that compassion, and we reconnect to that allness that we are. And then we start seeing that in our reflection instead of the razor.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yes. I mean, and then it becomes the compassion that's reflected back.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's in my mind, that's why we're here. And that's what the times are now.
Yes. And so the word of, I don't want to say caution, the word of awareness for this is to look inside and commit yourself to looking inside and allowing it, because as uncomfortable as it is for any of us, right? Because the ego, the more we go and open that door crack, right? The ego goes, but I thought we wanted comfortable.
Right.
I wanted it to be good. Look at all this good stuff that is really fun and we're happy with right now. You don't need to open that. Right.
Yeah.
And so we have it fighting on both sides, because there's part of it fighting to open the door, and there's part of it fighting to keep it closed. Right. So here's our friction that we are starting inside of us. So what's going to happen is, at some point, so look at that. We hit the equinox, right? So it's the light and the dark are equal. So now the darkness is pulling with more friction. It's building. Exactly.
Right.
And it's so productive, because it forces us to open those doors, right? So perfect. Of course, shameless self-plug that we'll be launching the shadow course of our Adventures in Wonderland program in October, which we are excited and terrified of at the same time.
I know. When I saw that workbook staring at me this morning, I was like, oh yeah, this is just the lead up to the course.
And we have our retreat in October.
That's right.
Which I am very much looking forward to.
Well, first we have a deep dive at the beginning of it for ourselves.
Yeah, by ourselves. Yes. Yeah. So
and then launching our final in the Wonderland series, all on self-love.
Yes. That'll be the licking our wounds part. No.
Wow.
Not licking our wounds, licking our, like, letting it all come together, but this is so powerful, because once we open the door, once the darkness pulls heavy enough to fully pull the door open, right? Then we have nothing to hide from ourselves. Then it's all whole. There's no dark or light. It just is. Right.
Right. And there's no judgment.
Yeah. So much easier. And so if we do commit to that, all right. And by the way, I had some pretty general, so we're talking about how do you insulate what you're intending to create. The way to insulate what you're intending to create is to allow yourself to fully experience what it is that you need to do to create that end result.
Yes.
And that's truly insulation. And the insulation isn't blocking out what's going on around you. It is simply allowing every other molecule to deal with its own catalyst for transformation.
Right. Well, and it's interesting. I've always advised couples that think of the worst thing that someone knows about you and tell your partner that item. So that way no one can hold that over you.
Yes.
And it's like, if we can look at that, if we can look at that piece that we don't want to look at, it's like you become bulletproof. within the chaos.
Yep. Yeah, because well, then it doesn't even seem to be chaos anymore because it's not in your reality.
Right. It's not a threat.
Yes, in any way. And we can't be victim to it. We can't, lose our way because of it. All it is a commitment because we're all going there. We're all there already. It's a matter of unleashing like that transformation to allow it to happen. It's like cracking the nut open. And this is what we've been asking to do. That's the crazy part.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's like we're asking to change states. Like we've been talking about the water, the solid liquid gas. We've been asking to change states, but yet we don't want to be agitated about it. We don't want to go through that transformation.
Yeah, that's a little too uncomfortable.
Right. I want this and that.
Yeah, which we can do. We can do it. But again, the can doing is here are the parameters in duality that we've created. Can I snap my fingers and be there? I absolutely can. And don't be surprised at what changes in the moment that you snap your fingers.
Exactly.
Because of all of the roots that this one thing or these three things are connected to that you are not giving credence to or seeing in your conscious mind. Right. Exactly. So, and most of the time we're not that open. I have been. And the funny thing is I did a meditation on Friday or Thursday that had this intention of clearing the rest away to make it so clear and I can't remember. I'd have to look at my journal what the exact words were, but I did this to myself. Absolutely.
Right. You asked for it.
Exactly. Hey, Michael.
And you created the perfect circumstances to bring this, to let it boil up.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, and I'm like, okay, so let's just do this. And that's all like, so whatever else. And I did say, of course, I did say with ease and fun and blah, blah, blah. That was not fun, but it could have been far worse.
Oh, right. And it always can be.
Always can be far worse.
Right.
So, and I just think it's really funny because it was like, okay, so when I did that meditation and I put that intention out there was a voice in the back of my head going, are you sure? You know what I'm saying? Are you sure you want to do that? And I'm like, no, I do because I'm committed to it. And I remember thinking that, right? So I was like, okay, I'm holding that space. And it was literally 2 days later. Humming along, things are great, blah, blah, blah.
Bam. Yep.
And so I am grateful for that. I am grateful for that. You know, it was but that's the whole thing is, okay, so guess what? Maybe now my agitation will not be as agitated. Maybe it'll flow more smoothly because I am now looking at all the cracks and crevices that I had hidden before and going, okay, that could be the best answer. That could be the best answer. That could be the best answer. I didn't want to look at that before because I had all these fears and whatever that I wasn't even looking at, but it's like, okay, all right. And in doing that, I can speak the truth in ways of authenticity that I couldn't before because I was covering up those little cracks and crevices.
Right. Yes.
Which is freeing beyond.
It really is.
belief.
It really is.
And I can be authentic in a way that I didn't realize I wasn't being, right? Because of covering up those little fears. So the whole thing is, it's getting to that place of that within ourselves, because if we all did that, this catalyst for transformation, that agitation would just boop, be done.
Right. Right.
In a little pop. And you know what? Afterwards, here's the thing, like I said, I look back on that big explosion of mine, and I think it felt so powerful. It felt so freeing in a way that I had never even comprehended.
Right.
And this is somebody who's been in martial arts for years, you know, like I've done all kinds of stuff, you know, like allowed big explosions of energy and power and all that kind of stuff. have been doing consciousness work for well more than a decade now, and nothing compared to that. Nothing.
Right. I would agree. And it was allowing from a fullness versus allowing from a limitation.
Yes. Yes. So that's really, and so this is like, it's funny because you might look at what we wrote on what we wanted to cover today, but this is really the way to insulate ourselves. And it's
Right.
it's the insulation is committing to our own path and our own allowance and our own realization, and pushing our own stuff up to the surface without distracting ourselves. The insulation is, let's not distract ourselves anymore with everybody else's stuff. Because the
Yeah.
more that we put our nose into other people's stuff to help them take
Right.
care of it or whatever, blah, blah. And this is tied into the live stream I did last Thursday, my Living the Shift, on honoring everybody's journey. Because
Right.
if we continue to do that, A, we're distracting ourselves from our own journey, and B, we are preventing somebody else from completing theirs.
Right. Yeah. And it's that feedback cycle that I love to talk about is, you can't honor someone else's unless you honor yours. And as you honor yours, it just overflows. And then you honor others as well. And
Yes.
it's that filling the cup and let it overflow to fill the other cups. And it
Yes.
just keeps going.
Yeah.
But this cup has to be full first.
Yes. Yes. And you have to, and we have to not you, we all have to
Right.
get to that place. And I don't like using have to's, but really the key for a quick and complete transformation is really owning that
Right.
for yourself. 100%. Owning yourself.
Yeah.
And I have felt that ever since that happened on Saturday. I feel free to say things that come from my heart in ways that I have just never felt before.
Same here. Same here. And I've gotten a few looks like, where did that come from?
Oh yeah. It got a little contentious this morning when we were on our walk, but it was like, you know what? This is it. This is my truth.
Right.
And I'm not saying it to irritate you or upset you.
No agenda.
There's no agenda. This is my truth.
Right.
Accept it or you don't. And that's your truth. Right.
Yes.
And that's power. That's authenticity. That's an ascended state. Not non-compassion. That's actually more love and unconditional acceptance than anything else.
I would agree. I do agree.
So for today, let's look into our little magic potion box. What are we going to do for our attention? So I would say, how about this? Setting the space for ourselves in this. It's like I see this big, cushy, nurturing pillow of love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trust in committing to this agitation, to this catalyst for transformation, to allowing us to finally see the cracks and crevices for what they are in their beauty, letting them come up so it can all be resolved back into the whole. And we've talked about this so much, but this is the actual act of finally. It's like, to me, it felt like this is all the rest of the crumbs that you've just said, I don't have to look at that today.
Right.
Or that's unimportant because I have all this other stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And yet I still have this physical irritation. Why is that? Or something like that, like that kind of thing. So
right. Yes.
Holding that space for ourselves in this. And here's the insulation, this big cushiony love fest bubble, right, of support that as the universe we can provide ourselves with, to allow for it to open, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it is a huge explosion, to allow it to move through quickly and with love, and with like such productivity and freedom and liberation, that on the far side, on the other side, we have no regrets about it. Like that we just flow forward.
Nice.
Yeah, that feels good. So everybody knows
All
what
of
to do.
that.
All that, nice little bow. So everybody close your eyes. Open your heart as we step out of separation back into wholeness and oneness. And we hold the space and hold the vibration where that is our truth. That is from where we exist, create, and experience. All right. Ooh. Wow. That brought tears.
Yeah. A little lost out there, almost
Yeah.
dizzy.
Yeah, that was nice. What I heard at a collective level was that many don't, which is what brought the tears, was that many don't believe they deserve that cushion of love to support them
Right.
through it.
Right.
So it was having to step back and allow that level of shifting to be able to, oh, my Amazon Alexa apparently was listening. But yeah, it's like stepping back to first get to the vibration of allowing that love, that supportive love, right? Wow. And that was like sort of like a heart-wrenching thing, right? Hi, Debbie. Oh, that's great. So that was amazing. Thank you. Yeah. So it's like putting ourselves in that place. I was like, wow, that's a big step. I didn't even realize that even what we were doing is putting that support and that bubble of love and whatever in place was going to be so contentious to even get to that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That was really nice and powerful. And now I know what direction to follow myself this week.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I think I might be coming back to this a number of times, but it's
Absolutely.
really good. It felt really nice. At the end, it was just like it felt so loving. So like I'm always here. Like I'm always here. It's just that we forget that. Like we're always here for ourselves. We just forget that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a great week. Let's say
Yes.
great, shall we?
Yes.
Great and productive week.
Productive.
With a lot of love. We'll sign off till next time. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg, Avagnoni.
signing off with this week's Ascended World. Have a great one.